Chapter 4 of The Photographer's Evidence. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Simona Rusu. The Photographer's Evidence by Nicholas Carter. Chapter 4 Patsy's Dancing Lesson. Serpent Sam, as he called himself, backed into the middle of the room as he spoke. The other men in the crowd yelled with joy and got together at the other end of the bar from Patsy, most of them. A few stood almost behind their leader. They were grinning at the fun they thought they were going to have with the tenderfoot. Patsy thrust his hands in the side pockets of his coat and watched as if with curiosity. He knew exactly what would happen, for he had met wild men from the western hills before. So when Serpent Sam blazed at his feet, he did not stir. The first bullet tore a hole in the floor just in front of his right toe. "Dance, you ornery cuss, dance!" yelled Serpent Sam. "I don't know how," replied Patsy. "Jump then, you idiot, jump into the air, Dory, I'll teach ye." As he spoke, Serpent Sam fired again. This time the bullet struck so close to the detective's foot that it jarred it. But no harm was done, and Patsy never stirred. He knew that the first shots would be aimed so as to scare him, not to hit. After that, Serpent Sam might be angered into firing to kill. "For heaven's sake, stranger," called Bronco Bill, "don't be a fool. Dance for the gentleman. It won't last long and nobody will get hurt. Jump and let him have his fun." Patsy himself saw by the savage glare in Serpent Sam's eyes that it would be jump or get hit at the next shot. Quick as a flash, therefore, without moving from his place, and before Serpent Sam could cock his revolver again, Patsy drew one of his own barkers and fired. Nobody in the room knew what he was about till they heard the bang and saw the puff of smoke that rolled away from in front of the detective. "I don't dance for anybody," said Patsy quietly. "Wow! Ouch! Damn!" howled Serpent Sam as his revolver flew from his hand. Patsy's bullet had struck it on the butt. It not only caused Serpent Sam to drop the weapon, but it numbed his fingers, and the bullet did another thing. Glancing from the place where it struck Sam's revolver, it flew across the room and hit another man on the cartridge belt, doing no harm but startling that man fearfully. For that matter, all the men were startled. Some of them ran behind the bar and crouched down. Half a dozen of those who had been in the place when the horseman came ran for the outside door. Serpent Sam, cursing with rage and pain, reached for his other revolver. He could bend his numbed fingers just enough to draw it from his belt, but he could not cock it. While he was trying to do so, it dropped to the floor. The fingers of his right hand would not hold it. Patsy, knowing that he was disabled, was paying no attention to him. He was sweeping his revolver carelessly around the room. "It might go off," he remarked. "It's got a hair trigger. Look out!" At that his weapon did go off. One of the men was just getting the drop on him. Patsy's shot did for him just what had been done for Serpent Sam. It knocked the gun out of his hand and caused him to leap back, cursing with rage. "If you gents enjoy dancing," said Patsy coolly, "just recollect that I'm floor manager here. I'll tell you when it's your turn. Yours, for instance." With this he let drive at the feet of a man near the edge of the crowd. The bullet splintered the floor at the man's toe. He jumped for fear, and the detective laughed. "It's more fun than I thought," he cried. "We'll try it again." He made as if he would empty all his cartridges at the man's feet, but he had done enough. All except Serpent Sam were making a wild scramble to get behind the bar, out of doors, underneath tables, any place so as to be out of range. Sam had cooled down very suddenly. "Hold on, stranger," he called. "We uns know when we're licked. You've done us brown, and if there's anything in the house you want, call for it." Patsy understood the man. His tone and manner showed that he meant what he said. He was rubbing his sore hand and kicking his revolver so that they would lie where he could pick them up. Of all the men there, Sam was the only one who hadn't shown fear. The detective immediately pocketed his weapon. "All right, Pard," he said good-naturedly. "There is one thing in the house I want." "Name it." "I want every man jack off you to wet up. The drinks are on me, gents. "Step lively." For an instant nobody stirred. They looked at him as if they could not believe their ears. Those who had crouched behind the bar gradually began to poke their heads above it. Naturally, Serpent Sam was the first to move. Leaving his revolvers where they were on the floor, he strode to Patsy with his hand outstretched. "Put it there, pard," he cried. "You're a white man, no mistake. I see I don't need to apologize for trying to have some fun with you." "Not at all," replied Patsy, shaking the man's hand. Sam winced, for the detective's grip hurt his sore fingers. "Excuse me," said Patsy, letting go. "I didn't think." Then both laughed, and at that sound the other men came crowding up. "Where you learn to shoot?" asked one. "Say, are you a walking Gatling gun?" inquired another. Patsy smiled at them. "I never learned to shoot," he said. "I was born with a gun in my hand, and I used to practice at the flies on the wall before I could walk." Everybody laughed at this. Bronco Bill drew a long breath. The shooting scrap had turned out pleasantly, with nobody the worse for it, and everybody thirsty. Glasses rattled on the bar, and bottles passed. "Here's how, pard," said Sam. He drained his glass at one gulp and set it down. "But yes," he added, "you'd oughter have let us make the other cuss dance. Friend of yourn?" "No, I saw that he was scared half to death, and I was afraid he might have a fit." "Rot, he'd a cut over it. Join us now, won't ye, pard, and rout him out." "We'll let you do the shooting," said another eagerly. "Now, gents," began Bronco Bill, fearful that the rough crowd would break loose again. He didn't know Patsy. "Rout him out?" echoed the detective. "Why, he's a mile from here by this time." "Go on. That's what he's doing. Bet your life on it." "We might break down the door and see," somebody suggested. Several of them began to move toward the door. "Wait a minute," called Patsy. He was smiling, and they stopped to hear what he had to say. "I'd rather you wouldn't bother the fellow," he went on. "I tell you that straight, but if you're dead anxious to have some fun with him and want me to join, I'll take the chance of a toss-up. What do you say?" "It's a go," cried Sam, taking a coin from his pocket. "Heads or tails, pard?" "Is it a cent?" asked the detective. "No, a dime." "Just as good. Throw it up to the ceiling, and if it comes down what you call yourself, I'll join you." Serpent Sam tossed up the coin. "Tails," he called. It struck the ceiling with a ting and began to fall. The detective's revolver flashed, to the great surprise of all, for they were watching the coin. Crack! Bang! went the trusty Barker twice in rapid order. There was another ting at the further side of the room. Sam went over there, and after hunting a bit, picked up the dime. He came back to the bar with it, his face fairly blue with wonder. "Derned if the stranger hain't won," he said. "The dime hain't got either a head or a tail." He laid the coin on the bar, and everybody crowded around to look at it. Patsy's first bullet had struck it on one side, and his second on the other, for the coin was spinning in the air, and luck was with him to the extent that both bullets did not hit the same side. "Well, if that ain't the darndest shooting ever I seen," said one of the men. All agreed with him. "It means," said Sam gravely, "that we let the white-livered cuss upstairs alone. But you must come with us to the next joint, partner." "All right," replied Patsy. "Lead on. And you'll have to make some glue dance soon as we find one of the right kind." "Go ahead, I'm agreed." The whole mob charged for the door. On the sidewalk they paused to decide which way to go. The street was not well lighted, and while they were talking, Patsy slipped a beard to his face. "We'll go to Danny Deneen's next," said Serpent Sam. "Come on, pard." He looked around. "Where's the sharpshooter?" he asked. Patsy pointed down the street. He's just scooted that way," he said in a disguised tone. "Darned if I don't believe he's trying to shake us," cried Serpent Sam. "Come on, boys, let's catch up with him." Off they went, yelling like mad, some jumping to their horses, others on foot. When they had all disappeared around the corner, Patsy took off his beard and went back into Bronco Bill's. Bill and his bartender were alone in the place. "Great scoot!" exclaimed Bill. "Where'd you come from?" "I thought I'd say good night," responded Patsy, laughing. "Didn't you go with that crowd?" "You see." "Well, I don't see how you done it, but you done me and my house a good turn, partner." Gee, I thought they'd shoot the whole outfit to pieces. Have something? No, thank you. When they find that I've given them the shake, they may come back here, and if they find me, it won't be so easy to get rid of them again. Tell 'em you don't know where I went. All right, no more I do. Call again? Tomorrow. The detective then went out and crossed the street to his lodging. He sat at his window for more than an hour. He saw the horsemen return after a time, heard them singing and shouting in bronco bills, but he heard no more shooting, and he saw no more of Snell that night. End of chapter 4.